Pelvic floor issues is something we're often humorous about. They're the butt of many jokes, pun intended. But how do you know if you actually have got a pelvic floor problem? So, in this session, I'm going to talk through 7 signs that your pelvic floor has a problem. Now, before we dive into them, let's contextualize that word problem. A lot of women have the effects that I'm going to describe and carry on with their lives regardless. What I'm looking to share here is that the things you may be accepting within your life may be able to be improved. And in fact, in the vast majority of cases, we can certainly prevent them getting worse. But better than that, we can not only improve the symptoms and how they're presenting, but help you to feel confident within your own body at the same time. And that's really, really important as we progress through life, to stay healthy in all aspects of the word. So first up then, the first sign that your pelvic floor has a bit of a problem is leakage. Now, when we're talking about leakage, it could be urinary leakage or it can be fecal leakage. Either can happen. Urinary leakage is what's most commonly talked about. And here it can happen when you sneeze, cough, or laugh. So everyday occurrences. Or it may be when you're running, if you jump, or if you go to lift something heavy. So any of those things can be in the context of exercise, but they may just be doing everyday tasks as well, like lifting your child or grandchild, lifting up the basket of washing, jumping to catch something, running to catch a bus. Or it can be those activities in an exercise setting, such as a gym, or just going out for a run on a nice day. Now, that leakage is really common. About a third of women will encounter it at some point in their life. It doesn't discriminate either. Not all pelvic floor issues are a sign of weakness either. So it's always important to identify what is actually going on for you. But it's also important to understand that by bringing focus to our pelvic floor, improving our connection with those pelvic floor muscles, integrating that with movement through the rest of the body, particularly with the breath, move it as we move, can really change our experience of those symptoms, whether it is just your everyday occurrences such as sneezing, coughing, or laughing, or when you are exercising. But again, we can do training for the pelvic floor that's suitable for whatever is going on for you. And then we can integrate movement. And it is really important when we are dealing with any pelvic floor issues that we integrate movement and even impact within that rehabilitation phase. Because these things don't happen, leakage doesn't generally happen when we're sitting still. Even if you're sneezing, your body is moving. So let's coach it to move and be able to manage the pressure through our torso down into the pelvic floor and have resilience in those pelvic floor tissues to cope with what's going on. So the second sign that you may have a problem with your pelvic floor is what I call jicking, going to the toilet just in case. Now, there's a couple of different aspects to talk about here. There is stress urinary incontinence, where a sudden change, like I just talked about for that first section, causes us to leak urine or worry that we're going to leak urine. And there's urge incontinence, where we're just worried something's going to happen, so we need to keep checking going to the toilet. Those two things are dealt with slightly differently. But either way, going to the toilet just in case something happens is a sign that some work supporting both your brain, your thoughts about what could happen, as well as your pelvic floor itself and the movement around it can be really beneficial. So that we're not going to the toilet just in case we leak before we do exercise. We don't feel that we have to go to the toilet just in case before we head out. And both of those, whether we're talking about stress urinary incontinence or urge incontinence, there is support available for both of those. And I think it's really important to understand that. The third sign that there may be a problem within your pelvic floor is a feeling of heaviness, a dragging sensation, or even a feeling of bulging down into the pelvis. And that bulging may feel like it's through the vagina, or even the sensation that something might push out of your vagina. So some of these may be symptomatic of prolapse. There are different types of prolapse and different degrees or stages of prolapse. But again, coaching of the pelvic floor muscles in conjunction with movement as well can help to manage those symptoms, potentially improve the prolapse if there is one, but importantly, help you to feel confident with what you're doing in your body and prevent those feelings of heaviness, dragging, or bulging from getting any worse. So the fourth sign I'm going to talk about that may be an indication that there is something that needs help within your pelvic floor is persistent back pain. Now, often when we do have back pain, the focus goes straight into the place in our back that is hurting. And we tend to have a very localized focus on where we're feeling the discomfort, rather than taking a global view and looking at everything. Now, in around about 96% of cases of persistent low back pain, there was some form of pelvic floor dysfunction as well. Now, that doesn't mean to say that pelvic floor dysfunction causes low back pain, nor that low back pain causes pelvic floor dysfunction, but there is a correlation. So the two tend to happen together. And so when we are dealing with persistent low back pain, or back pain that has happened over a long period of time, I think it's really important to do some deep screening, to ask some deep questions about what the experience is around the pelvic floor, around toileting, around how that pelvis feels, around how that changes when you're doing different things as well. Looking at whether that pelvic floor needs some strengthening support, and if it does it need strengthening to respond to emergency situations in a quick way, or does it need strengthening from an endurance point of view? Both of those functions are available within our pelvic floor, but sometimes there can be a little bit of an imbalance in terms of how our body accesses those muscles. And perhaps there's actually too much tension within the pelvic floor, which can cause low back pain or persistent back pain. So here, we don't necessarily want to tighten and squeeze or strengthen. We want to look at being able to release and relax, to let the tension go from our pelvic floor and therefore allow the back to relax, which is why, again, it's really important to understand what the specific situation is for you, rather than just grabbing the nearest quick fix and hoping that that helps. So the fifth sign that there may be a problem with your pelvic floor is something that we don't even really joke about that much. It's that embarrassing, dare I say. It certainly makes us feel vulnerable, whether we're talking about it or experiencing it. And that is queefing, as some people call it. Other people may call it fanny farts, but it's where there's air expelled from the vagina and it makes a noise as if you are farting. Now, it has potentially a particular sensation which may be uncomfortable, but I think it's the knowledge that that came out of your vagina and how that affects how we feel within our body. So again, here it's an indication that some work to support your pelvic floor, how you're activating, releasing those muscles, as well as the muscles around the pelvis and through the rest of the body as well, whether you're holding your breath even to create certain movements, and the situations in which the queefing or those funny farts happen can help us to build a picture as to what's going on for you and help to put the right solution forwards to support your pelvic floor. So the sixth sign that there may be a problem within your pelvic floor is difficulty inserting a tampon or difficulty holding a tampon in place. Now, those two things may symbolize different issues with the pelvic floor. So again, it's really important to be deeply screened, to go through this with somebody that you trust, that has the experience and education to know when to refer on if necessary, but also what approach is going to best suit you, and how to keep checking back as well to make sure the chosen approach is actually leading to progress in your symptoms and helping you to feel stronger, more resilient through your pelvic floor and the rest of your body too. So sometimes difficulty inserting a tampon can be through hypertonicity or too much tension within the pelvic floor, making the vagina feel tight and uncomfortable. Here, there can be other symptoms that require a different approach to pelvic floor exercises that very, very much involve your thought processes as well. It could be, again, that there is some degree of prolapse in there, which is making it difficult to push something into the vagina because there's almost something blocking it or diverting the path. If you're having difficulty holding that tampon in place, again, it could be an indication that some strengthening work is required. But again, it's important to know whether we need to look at just the fast muscle actions of the pelvic floor, whether we need to look at the endurance, or more commonly, a balance between the two. The seventh and final sign that I'm going to talk to you today about that can be an indication of a problem within your pelvic floor is simply missing out on activities that you would normally want to join in on, just in case something happens, because you're worried that you won't be able to stop yourself from leaking or feeling heavy, because you're worried it's going to make your back, your pelvis, your hips, the area around your vagina to ache or feel uncomfortable. Just any of those reasons that are causing you to change what you're doing in your life. Now, this is something that I see really commonly with clients, and it makes me so sad. And it's why I have the passion to coach and support women in the way I do. And it's not just about their pelvic floor. Because when we lose that confidence in our body, in our ability to control the activities that we do, it's not just about our pelvic floor health. That starts to impact on our heart health, on our bone health, because we start moving less. We change the activities we do and the way that we move. And that also then has direct impact on our mental health, on our feeling of well-being, how confident we are in our body. And that will progress as we age as well. So my aim is to keep women moving as long as possible, in as many different ways as possible, in ways that they enjoy with confidence, so that when there are those concerns about something happening with their pelvic floor or any of the areas of the body around that, they are able to take positive, proactive steps to deal with that and continue to move at the same time. I do think sometimes women avoid asking the question about what they're experiencing through their pelvis and pelvic floor because they can be concerned they're going to be told to stop doing certain activities. I've certainly worked with runners and gym goers that have avoided doing that because they don't want to be told, no, you can't run. No, you can't lift weights. My role as a coach is to keep you doing as much as you possibly can whilst coaching you to support your pelvic floor and build that resilience, not just strengthening, but the ability to activate, the ability to release, the ability to move in a number of different ways without creating additional pressure into that pelvic floor, but to put you in the driving seat so that you feel confident to do whatever you want, whether that's hopping on the trampoline with or without the kids, whether that's going for a run, lifting weights, or as simple as being able to sneeze without wetting yourself. These are major issues. So if any of these signs that I've mentioned really resonate with you and you think, do you know what, I'm ready to do something about this. I don't want to live with these signs and symptoms anymore, particularly now I know there are positive steps I can take to do something about it, then please get in touch. Even if that's just reaching out to ask a question, make that first step as little as you need to, but do understand there are positive actions that you can take that will make a real difference for your pelvic floor, and that will have far-reaching effects for your whole body, how you think about your body and the things that you can do in your life today, but way into the future as well.